got a quick question about this year with the actually reversal of things where the importation of corn actually into the Southeast and the lower export numbers. Do we see this continue? And we're still looking at over 1 billion bushels in exports this year. What does the USDA feel that those numbers need to be adjusted with this new, I guess, import phenomenon and the lower trend on exports?
Well, what the gentleman's referring to is there is some corn coming in from Brazil, for example. Historically, you can see that happen sometimes in the Southeast because of locational differences. I don't think this is a structural change. We'll see more coming in this year. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I just see that as a temporary phenomenon. If we get, I'll tell you what, if we lose 44 bushels an acre in yields next year, it's going to get really interesting. And it was hard enough this year trying to get to where we are now, trying to figure out what the implications are. But I do not see necessarily a change in that export figure. Now, if you're referring to some kind of an export constraint or something like that, we're far from anything like that. I just don't see the U.S. government doing that. That's disastrous when the U.S. government does that. And we have done that in times past to our discredit. What it does, it destroys a reliable supplier argument, and you just can't have that happen.
Craig Wishner with Farmland LP. Regarding the difference in corn production yields between the U.S. and Brazil, for example, what do you attribute that to? Is it fertilizer use, planting practices?
That's a very good question.
If you took a U.S. farmer down there, how would they do?
I think what we're going to see is those numbers creep. We're seeing the numbers creep up in China because of the technology transfer. I expect to see the same thing in Brazil. Brazil, they're just not good corn producers yet. Part of the problem historically we've heard about aluminum in the soil is an issue. You've probably heard that too. Where they're getting their expansion right now is not through yields. When I'm talking about expansion, they've shown sharp expansion in recent years. Where that's coming from has been an area. What they have discovered in that Mato Grosso area, where they have increased sharply their soybean production, what they have figured out is they can follow soybean production in the same year with corn production. That's where the expansion is coming from. It's not coming through the yields, but they're a very advanced country, and I hope that they do come on. I don't see it as a negative for the U.S. for them to come on. I think it'd be a very positive thing for the rest of the world, all of us. For them to benefit with improved yields. And I do think we'll see that happen because it's just going to take them a while to get their act together. You know, in soybeans, they're very competitive. As a matter of fact, if you notice in that one chart I showed on soybeans, you may want to go back and look at that later. This is the first year that we're forecasting that Brazil alone will outproduce the U.S. in terms of soybeans. 15 years ago, Argentina and Brazil combined couldn't do it. But now we have Brazil alone is outproducing the U.S. 15 years ago, it was the name of the game was the U.S. Today, it's become Argentina and Brazil, especially Brazil. Yes, sir.
Question. If you looked out 10 years, do you see agricultural production growing in Africa and in other really low-producing areas of the world that are going to come into the main market?
Well, it may be a not politically correct answer, but I see that as a continuing struggle. I don't see a whole lot happening. I can tell you that companies such as Pioneer and others are extremely active there, trying to figure out what they can do to improve yields there. I know you guys might remember Senator Daschle. He's on a committee that's working on that and so forth. But it's a struggle. I certainly within a 10-year time frame, I don't see them as becoming anything in terms of a competitor or anything like that. It just isn't going to happen. It's just been a struggle there. I will tell you that it took Brazil, when I first came to USDA back in the 1970s, got aware of this kind of stuff. Staff meeting after staff meeting after staff meeting, where we hear, what are we going to do when Brazil gets its act together? Well, it's taken 35 years for Brazil to get its act together, and they've got the natural resources and the climate and so forth that will support that. Unfortunately, some of the African countries, it's a struggle because of the climatic conditions and so forth. So I think it's going to be a continuing struggle there.